we're going to bring in our buddy who's been grinding NFL, of course, tonight. 9 is the number. Seahawks, Cowboys, 47.5. We're going to get into that game and more with Brandon Anderson, the Action Network writer and analyst. We like to run the board with Brandon as well. At Wheaton Brando on Twitter as we say hi to Brandon. Nice to have you back, Brandon. How are you? Happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving. It's good to be back. Good to watch a lot of football. Like, we're getting to the part now where we get games on Thursdays and Fridays, and the Saturday games are about to be back. And I think this is our last big bye week, so you can tell that we're hitting the home stretch here.
And you wrote a great article. We were just talking about how prolific Dak Prescott has been. So let's talk about it. And I'm going to let you run with this. He's your fourth betting favorite in the market right now at 7-1 to win the MVP. We can talk about the Cowboys, big picture as well. But let's start with Dak. You know, he is so polarizing, Brandon. We were talking about, you know, when we used to do talk radio where we'd take calls. When I tell you 8 out of 10 callers said Dak was overrated, he never deserved the money. You know, a lot of that comes with being the Cowboys quarterback. It's just wild because his numbers continue to be excellent.
Yeah, I mean, everyone has to have an opinion on the quarterback of America's team, right? And the numbers are absurd. And if you look just since the bye week, so they had the bye week in week 7, and coming out of the bye week, there was a clear shift there. If you look at how often that they're passing compared to running. And we know over the years, especially in recent years when Kellen Moore was there, Cowboys want to run, right? That's what Jerry Jones wants to run the football. You know, that's what they had Zeke for. And the run game just hasn't been great for them this year. Coming out of the bye week, that was 1 week after that big loss to the Niners. Yeah, we know that loss still counts for all the Dak Prescott hype. Coming out of the bye week, they started passing so much. Just like YOLO, it's Dak time. They're moving CeeDee Lamb around the field. He's had some huge weeks. Here's some of the numbers Dak's had since the bye week. First game out, 304 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. 374 and a 3. 404 and 4. Thanksgiving, 331 and 4 touchdowns. Basically a perfect game against Washington. It's averaging 320 yards and 3.4 passing touchdowns a game. If you pace just these 5 games to a whole season, he's on pace right now for 5,447 passing yards and 58 touchdowns, obviously both of which would be NFL records. So, of course, it doesn't work that way. We just get to pace everything out. The first games count, and there's still more. But I think that we're really largely underrating how good Dak is playing right now. The schedule coming up, you know, I'm sure you guys have talked about it. It's daunting if you look at some of the teams that are playing, but the pass defenses are not daunting. So I actually think that the schedule could play into Dallas's favor. You're going to have, you know, he's had all these times where he doesn't have to do anything in the fourth quarter. They're killing teams. Now he's going to have to. Now he's going to have to play and throw all the way to the end against beatable pass defenses. Seattle is beatable. Dallas is beatable. Some of these teams coming up, Philadelphia is beatable. So I think Dak is playing great ball. He was my preseason MVP pick. I had him 25-1. I doubled down 40-1. I think in season did not look good after that Niners game. I still think he's the right pick right now. I think he's a good pick for passing yards leader, for touchdowns leader. Dak is just balling right now. I think he's the best quarterback in football for the last month or two.
Wow, we got to bring in Mr. Future, Dustin Swedelson, because I saw a tinge of jealousy when Brandon hit you with the 25-1 and then the rebuy on 40-1 on Dak in the MVP market, because that's your specialty. And I'm not sure you're holding any tickets on Dak MVP-wise, big guy.
I only have one MVP ticket this year, and it's Lamar Jackson, and it's not even a huge number. It's like 16-1, 17-1, something like that. But I think the thing about Brandon going back and hitting a second time is a massive lesson for bettors, because at that point the number moves. Obviously he has a better number already in pocket, but when you handicap the market, when you look at the MVP market, all these guys have flaws, all these guys have issues, and when you look at the stats, and remember the voters who vote on this for the most part look at the stats, Dak has all of them covered.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers are all there. And the thing about the schedule is, so it's Seattle, Philly, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit. Like, that's daunting. And look, you got to win games. Quarterback wins, we know, is not a thing, but it is a thing. Dallas is probably going to have to, almost certainly they're going to have to win the Dallas game against Philly a week from now. and they're probably going to have to keep on winning and at least be in the mix for the division and the 1 seed. They may have to pass Philly to get those, to win MVP. So that's why the number is still long here, I think, deservedly so. But honestly, I think Dallas is the better team right now. And the thing about that schedule is, it's the Cowboys against all of these great teams against, look who the quarterbacks are. Jalen Hurts, MVP favorite. Josh Allen, leader in EPA. Tua Tagovailoa, another MVP favorite. Like, he's going to have head-to-head MVP battles on TV that all of us are watching. So if he's good, we're all going to see it happen, and every voter is going to see it happen too. So I think it sets up for the narrative play pretty well too.
Who concerns you? Like, if I was looking at this market right now with Hurts, Mahomes, and Lamar ahead of him, Tua and Purdy behind him, and even McCaffrey, who do you fear the most with your Dak ticket? Because to me, I think you've got the best ticket.
Yeah, I don't know that I fear anyone necessarily, which is not really even being overconfident in the Dak ticket as much as it's just not a great MVP year. Like, that's why you can dig for down the line with Dak. I think Hurts is the obvious fear, just in that I don't think he should be really the MVP right now. But if the Eagles go right now, they have one loss. If they win both these next 2 games, I think that's it, right? The Eagles are just so far ahead of everyone. He's got the narrative of, oh, maybe he would have won last year if not the injury. So I think that's the most obvious, easy path in a year where we don't have a clear MVP winner. How about the guy that's leading in touchdowns when you add in the rushing touchdowns and on the one last team that's better than everyone? It's pretty easy, standard MVP choice. So I think that's the default, team to fear, guy to fear. My other ticket that I think actually has some value, I got my Niners jersey on right now. Granted, this is my Trey Lance Niners jersey. How about the guy that beat out Trey Lance and took his job? I think Brock Purdy is the other pick down the board still. And San Fran, I think they're going to go in and beat up on Philadelphia this week and take a lot of that shine off the Jalen Hurts MVP ticket. So I think Purdy would be the one other guy I'd have my eye on.
Our boy Brandon Anderson, Action Network. So you can go check out that Dak article. Today, he wrote up Week 13 kickoff, Seattle at Dallas. He's got a bunch of different ways to attack it, and so many stats to back it up. Now, I will say about the jersey, nobody's going to tell Carson Wentz the secret's between us, Brandon, but obviously there's some issues, okay? Last time Brandon was on, he was rocking Wentz, and now he's quit on his boy from North Dakota. Let's go straight into tonight. I always like to start when we're doing a show with the dog and try to find reasons to bet a dog like Seattle catching a number like they are tonight. But I got to be honest, this is a freaking nightmare matchup. Like, if there's one thing you want to try to do against Dallas to keep them honest is run the football. No Kenneth Walker, that obviously hurts. Geno under pressure, that hurts. This just looks like, from the outside looking in, a horrible matchup for the Seahawks. Convince me otherwise, Brandon.
I don't know that I want to convince you otherwise. I'm with you in lockstep on that one. I think this is a terrible spot for Seattle. I had picked Seattle 2 weeks ago, so right before the Thanksgiving game, Seattle was plus 340 to miss the playoffs, which was a terrible number, not just because I think Seattle is a lock to miss the playoffs. Like, you might make the playoffs at 8 and 9 in the NFC, but Seattle had the San Fran, Dallas, San Fran, Philly stretch coming up where they're going to lose probably all 4, at least 3 of them. So you can just come back on the other side of the ticket, if nothing else, after that. And this matchup was part of the logic. It's just not a good matchup. Seattle, like you said, they can't run the ball here. Their offensive line, I did see Abe Lucas finally is coming off the IR, so I don't know if that means that he'll play tonight. But their pass blocking has not been great. Guess what? Micah Parsons and the number 1 pass rush. And then Geno Smith turns into a pumpkin every time he gets pressured. Can't complete passes on third down. Can't complete passes in the red zone. Dallas has been better at home. I don't know that I want to lay the points here for Dallas, but it's definitely a Dallas or pass situation. Like, in my article, as you guys know, I make picks on each side. And here's our little secret. My pick for Seattle in this game is Colby Parkinson, their second or maybe third tight end, to score a touchdown, 14-1. That is, just to be clear, not a confidence that Colby Parkinson is a stud and going to catch a touchdown. If I'm taking a 14-1 as my best bet for Seattle, you better believe I can't find any reason to back Seattle any other way than just throwing a long shot out there.
Yo, big guy, he went deep into his bag there.
Look, I like so Dallas allows, they're tied for I think second or third in the league, the most tight end touchdowns. So I thought about, because you can get anytime touchdown on Parkinson, 6-1 on Fant, and 9-1 on Disley, just betting all three of them. And if one of them hits, you're up for the day. But God, you're reaching deep for those, man.
Yeah, I mean, that stat you just had, that's why I went for the tight end here. The reason I took Parkinson and not Fant, so Fant's snap count is up, but he only has one red zone target all season.
Yeah.
Parkinson has 5. He only has 20 targets all year, but 5 are in the red zone. And I think it makes sense if you're Seattle, you play extra tight ends to try to help with all the blocking, and then maybe just pop one out for that, the play action, the 2-yard touchdown to the tight end that we've seen so many times. So if I'm Dallas, I think I like first half under the 7, -6.5. Get my money, get out of there. But I don't want anything to do with Seattle here. Seattle, 5 of their last 7 losses are by 14 or more.
Brandon gets 2 segments. That's just the rule here on Sharp Money. And you mentioned, yes, Dallas has been, quote, pretty good at home this year. They're outscored their opponents 205-60 at AT&T. They've won 13 straight. They're winning by an average of 29 points. They score 40 or more at home. This is a historic home run by the Cowboys. We're back. Little known fact about me and the big guy who've been working together for a long time, we really value work ethic. It's something that I think if we're surrounded by a lack of work ethic, we can get a little ornery. I think you would agree with that, Dustin Swedelson. And that's one of the reasons we love bringing Brandon Anderson on from the Action Network, because we were joking with him during the break, and I just asked him randomly, like, are you an A-type personality? And again, if you've read his write-ups, you can understand, you can kind of feel how much research goes into it. And Brandon's answer was, if I'm handing out a prop, I literally spend a week researching the prop. I'm not going to give out a pick and have somebody bet it if it's not thoroughly researched. So that is, I wrote this down when you were talking during the break, because this is something that you take very seriously.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, our job is to do the work and give out picks. And I feel like any pick that's coming out of my mouth, any pick that's being written on my Twitter or in my article, I'm assuming people are going to bet their hard-earned money on that. So that's as much as I'm betting it myself. We better make it count. So I'm going to put the work in and make sure we get as many winners as we can.
Wonderful. Well, just so you know, we do appreciate it. We read it. Again, you can check out Brandon Action. Okay, so if we can, just before we get off tonight's matchup, Seattle, of course, 9. You can find anywhere between 8.5 and 9.5 in the market, to be fair. Are you attacking outside of the prop? Are you attacking this game any differently?
Yeah, Dallas, the first half, -6.5, I think is my best bet on the game. Just get the money and get out of there. I do think there's some kind of look-ahead potential for the Cowboys with that big Eagles game next week. And I do think maybe Geno can come through the back door. So I'd rather just trust them to take care of business early. I think it's a good teaser spot too, especially if you're still having 8.5 out there. Obviously, it's a good long teaser. You get below the 7 and the 3. So that's a good way to start your weekend slate out with the teaser. I just think Cowboys take care of business here.
Okay. You know what we like to do when you come on? Not necessarily run the whole board, but let's attack some of these games coming up week 13. And we're not quite at week 13. We're not at that point where towards the end of the year, it's like a landmine betting the NFL, because you're starting to handicap motivation, which gets very difficult, as you know, Brandon. Like, handicapping motivation in any sport is so nebulous, and it makes for a handicapper an uncertain experience, I guess is the way I'd put it. So let's just have a little fun with it. I know there's a few games. I just want to take a look to make sure I'm not hitting on one of the few games that you sent over that you want to try to avoid. Okay, I got them, and I'm ready to go. Let's start with 455. Atlanta at the Jets, because there's so much to this, right? Right now, Atlanta's laying 2, sitting 1 in their division, and they're at the Jets. The reason we heard about Rodgers is because Rodgers is letting everybody know, based on how the Jets perform over the next few weeks, that will then let you know whether or not you see me. So there's still plenty to play for both the Falcons and the Jets here.
Yeah, and I think people are starting to write off the Jets a little too early. Like, it's too easy to just dump on Tim Boyle and dump on the Hail Mary delightful Black Friday gift that we all got in that one. I don't know how we're making Desmond Ridder a road favorite against this Jets defense. I don't get it. I wish this was still at 3. Jets +3 was maybe my favorite side of the week. So I grabbed that one early. I still like it below the 3. Obviously, I like the key number, but Atlanta has 5 wins this season. They got wins by 1, 2, and 3. So every half a point is going to matter here because you get a Jets +2.5. The Falcons go on the road and win here, they might only win by a point or 2 because what's the total now? 34 on this game? Like every field goal is a huge win for either side. And I just feel like the Jets defense is going to continue to give them chances. We saw that in the Black Friday game. They failed them. They get a pick 6. You missed the extra point. Get an interception. They throw a 99-yard pick 6 on the next play. But I just think the Jets are as good as the Falcons, really. And I'm not going to give up, basically at +2, what are we saying on a neutral that the Falcons are 4 or 5 points better than the Jets? When the Jets have the one elite unit, the defense, I don't see that.
That's a great point. Now, let's go to 467, and that's San Francisco at Philly. And Dustin, just as a reminder, we had Fezzik on, who's sitting second in Circa Millions, professional handicapper, on Monday. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Dustin, at the time he said, bet San Francisco laying 1.5, 2 right now, because this is going to 3.
Yes.
And we always like to reinforce that key number being 3, NFL, and frankly, college betting as well. Probability-wise, that's where a game's going to land most of the time. This is all the way up the 3. So you've lost your number if you're betting the 49ers here, Brandon. I don't know which way you're going, but that's where it's at. 49ers at Philly, laying 3.
Yeah, I mean, what a game we have here. The best team in the NFL, and the Eagles are playing in this game too, right? It's a great game we get to watch. This was my hot read. I do the hot read every Sunday night as soon as the lines come out. I got this at -110 on the money line. There was a book out there just laying a coin flip odds. And I just think the Niners, this is a matchup that I love for them. I've been waiting for this all season. Ironically, early in the year, I was looking at the Niners thinking, man, these guys are steamrolling everyone. Who can stand in front of this train back before they had the 3-game losing streak? And I saw this game on the schedule. I was like, oh, maybe Philly. Looked in the matchup already then. I was like, oh, no. Oh, this is a terrible matchup for Philly because, like, what's the whole thing that the Niners do? They win the middle of the field, both sides of the ball. Shanahan gets the middle of the field offensively better than anyone. They're going to have 2 backs out there. The Eagles have not been good against that. Eagles linebackers are the spot where you want to attack them. And now Zach Cunningham is not practicing as well. Fletcher Cox might be out. Again, up the middle. Eagles are dead last DVOA against tight end. Over the middle, I think George Kittle can have a big game here. And that pass defense in the Philly is clearly the weak spot in this game. So I think the Niners are going to pass on this team. I think they're going to score plenty. And on the other side, we just kind of assume the Eagles are good at running the ball because that's their identity, what they've been. But it hasn't been as good as it was last year. And again, what's the spot where the Niners defense is great? Up the middle. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. Like, those are the guys. They're going to flow. They're going to be able to contain, I think, Hurts in the run game some. Lane Johnson is still banged up on the right side. I just think that this is a matchup that tilts heavily matchup-wise in the Niners' direction. I wish it was under 3. I think there's still some 2.5s out there. But to me, this is the game the Niners waited all season for, right? They didn't get their chance last year. Like, everybody broke their arms and shoulders and throwing arms in the NFC Championship. And by the way, you mentioned that my Niners jersey. I'm not cheating on my guy Carson Wentz. Trey Lance, North Dakota State too. I just have terrible North Dakota State quarterback jersey. That's what I got. So that's why I got the jersey on. Niners, I think they don't just win. I think they expose the Eagles. I'm going to play alt lines on this. I think the Niners roll here.
Awesome. Great breakdown. Now, let's go back to Sunday, Kansas City, Green Bay, because this is where you have to be careful as a bettor because we're so reactionary, and so is the market. And we just saw Green Bay by far coming off their – and everybody saw it because everybody was eating stuffing and watching it together as a family, right? They saw Trey Lance performing wonderfully. Correct me, but this number, Chiefs at Green Bay, open 7, and it's been bet down, right?
Correct, yeah. And I was eyeing it at 7, but obviously we're off the key number now, so we lose a little bit there. I think if I'm going any direction here, and I'm pretty light on this game, but I like the Packers team total over 17.5. They've gone over that 4 straight games. They've had at least 17, all but 2 games this year. I think the big takeaway Thanksgiving is Jordan Love. And I wrote Jordan Love off a little bit like a month ago. I was like, I didn't evaluate him well coming out of college. All the stuff was there. The inaccuracy, the slow reads, that's changed. He looks good out there. He looks like a real quarterback. He's not Patrick Mahomes. Let's not pretend. But like the Packers are playing better because Jordan Love is playing well. Last 5 weeks, the Chiefs offense is 16th in DVOA. They're just league average. The Packers are top 12 offense and defense that stretch. So the number seems too high. I don't know if I trust it because it does feel like we're buying high on the Packers, but I do think they're going to score here. 17, 18 points is not too big of an ask. So I like the team total over.
You keep grinding. Now, be easy on yourself. Remember, perfection is not attainable, okay? So when you're putting together your write-ups for these games, you be easy, but we're always going to read your work and continue to have you on the show. Brandon Anderson, Action Network. Give me what's the Twitter handle? Give it to me, Brandon.
At Wheaton Brando. I went to Wheaton College here in Chicagoland, so I still got Wheaton in my name. Can I throw out 3 props for listeners too? Can I hit you on the way out? 3
yes,
over.
Please.
Najee Harris rushing yards over 45.5. It's up to like 50-ish that he gets over in a win. Adam Thielen over 5.5 catches. Michael Pittman over 6.5 catches. I think those lines are both a full catch too low. Those are my 3 favorite props of the week.
Begging to give props on the way out? That's exactly what we're looking for. Brandon, thank you. Talk to you next time. Josh Applebaum is next.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.